Hello, everyone. It's really great to connect with you. This is a part of Awakenings with Michele Meiche podcast called Awakening Conversations. I've been wanting to do this for so long, and it's like my guides and my higher self tricked me into doing this just spontaneous with one of my great, great, great friends and A+ students, really. Some of you that are watching this later in the replays, you may already know of her, Lori Bregman, who is a doula, has been on the forefront of women's health, really empowering women for a really long time, and has a long arc of her soul path. And that's a bit of what we're going to be talking about today. So, really, this channel is about empowerment, but living more from the soul, living more from your soul purpose, soul expression, and how to do that, how to activate your soul gifts, how to activate your soul purpose, and how to transition perhaps from living just a life path to a soul path. And I think Lori has a great story around that. And we're going to dive in and we're going to give you some tips, really, some soul path tools and techniques and tips to how to activate your soul's purpose, how to find it, and how to bridge from what you're doing into what you really want to do. Because that's my realm. That's what I love doing. I love supporting people in connecting into the most fulfilled living and way of life that they can. Hey, Lori, great to connect with you. I see you got
Shelly,
your tea. I got my tea.
I got my tea. You got me into the decaf green tea.
I
You
got the
got me
decaf. You
into
got the no. I had my jasmine green earlier already. I don't want to be bouncing off the walls tonight. But yeah, it's so funny because we talked about doing this. We were going to do it on Patreon. Because you're part of my Patreon community. And then we were going to do it live, Zoom and YouTube, but I have to wait to authenticate. And I just think, just like how I transferred from Blog Talk Radio to Podbean, it's all happening last minute, kind of where I can't even think, and you're like, oh, let's just do it. Let's just. So here we are.
I love the improv. Two, we wanted to do this because Michele and I will get on the phone or we'll go to lunch or dinner, and the conversations that we have are just like so full of so much wisdom. I'm like, we need to like shoot the shit, have some tea, and like just get on Zoom and just like talk because
Yeah.
we're
And
so
hopefully this is one of many more, because a lot of what we talk about, you see with the people you work with, I see with the people that I work with, or we see with ourselves. I know I see with myself, and it's like, I just feel for people that want to live more fulfilled, and there's really not a lot of great information out there because you really have to, even though there's basic steps, you have to individualize it to the person, to their skills, their skill set, their soul. People have to know their soul, which you've always been really good about. Even if you veered to the left or the right, or you've always been, no, this is what I want to do. This is me. And I think that it's hard sometimes for people to get that. Like, how do they know what is truly them? What is authentic to them?
I think, well, working with you for 9,000 years, and I can honestly say your guidance, I wouldn't be where I am or who I am today and where I'm going, because I know this is just a blip on the path of where I'm going, but because of your guidance and the tools that you provided me. But I think a lot of it is like you taught me is to follow the openings
Mm.
and the passion, like what are you drawn towards and what's coming in for you, what's in front of you right now. And even, and also a couple, we can talk about all this, like, and break it down, but I know that the big things with you also, I feel like I am so authentic in what I do. And I'm even creating a whole coaching program for doulas for them to find their authenticity and like do doula your own way. Because when you're yourself and you're just rocking it in your own authentic way, you're going to pull in those people that resonate with you. And there's nobody really, nobody else is like you. They can try, but nobody can
Yeah.
really do it. And there is no competition when you're really rocking your authentic self and being, following what feels right for you and integrating these things, these modalities and your life path and all these different things that have made you who you are today. So
Yeah. And you have, like I said, this arc because, okay, which I didn't even realize in the beginning, you have been working like with holistic healthcare. You started out doing hair care, right? You did
That
way
was,
back when.
well, I
Hmm.
had to do that because my dad was like, I'm not putting you through college. So I was like, I wanted to go to acupuncture school to work with women, pregnancy and fertility. And little did I know. So I was doing hair color because I needed to do something. Um, and then I really wanted to get into that. So I put myself through massage school, ended up specializing in massage, took a deep dive into healing, studied with done a lot of work with you, studied intuition, a lot of healing work. And then when I was in massage school, I took my doula training. I didn't even know what a doula was, but I was like, I'm learning everything. Why not just
Well, I
become
didn't know you took it while you were in
in
massage. Oh, so you had dual track because you were doing a lot of massage. And I know people like Lori has this reputation, massage therapist to the stars, to the celebrities, doula to the stars. And she is, and you totally are. I mean, your list, A list plus. But I didn't know you always had this interest in the pregnancy and the doula world.
I didn't, you did know what you knew, but here's what the interesting thing. So,
But at the same time, you said.
no, so when I took the doula training and I was specializing in prenatal massage, and I would work on everybody, but like prenatal massage was my jam. Um, and then I was also at the same time doing a lot of deep healing work with Michele and some other people, but mostly with Michele. And when I was at my doula training, the teacher said, there's a reason each one of you are here and drawn to this career because something must have happened to you along the way, whether when your mom was pregnant with you or as a child, that led you to this. And I had this just kind of aha moment, like, yes, but I had no idea what that was. And I tell this story a lot when I go on podcasts about how you hypnotized me. And I'm just going to be like really open about it and tell it like,
Remember, we did the hypnotherapy and you went right back to the incident.
well, we first we were looking at programs that ran my life. And it was, we came up with, I got these wordings that I'm a burden, I don't deserve to exist, and I'm unlovable. And you're like, Lori, where do you think this comes from? I'm like, Michele, I have no idea. And you're like, well, let's do a session next week and figure it out. I'm like, I'm not waiting till next week. Get me in tomorrow. And this is like, I need to know now. And this is how I'm definitely a lot more like go slower now. Like, I was like back
Well,
then.
you blaze through, so yeah, you can
I was
take
like,
it
let's
really.
forget peeling an onion. Let's go. So the next day, Michele and I got on the thing and I went back and all of a sudden I was in the womb. And I remember being I could feel the way I felt in there. I was so stressed out. And I knew nothing about my mom's pregnancy with me, nothing about her birth, nothing about her postpartum, nothing. But I was so stressed out that I started having a panic attack and Michele took me out of the session. And you're like, Lori, what happened to you when your mom was pregnant with you? And I'm like, I don't know. And you're like, I think you need to have a talk with your mom. And so I called my mom and she started crying and just said, the fact that you survived that pregnancy, your soul was meant to be here. And I'm like, what does that mean? And she didn't really get into it with me. It was more my dad and my grandmother, her mother, told me, that she was 17, not didn't really, want to have a baby. Back in the day, I was going to be put up for adoption, which I didn't know. And my dad was like, I don't care what you do. I'll marry you tomorrow. We can either get married or you're going to have this baby and I'll raise it myself, but you're not putting my child up for adoption. And I guess she was so depressed. She wasn't eating. She was chain smoking. She was doing all these things to she kept bleeding. So she kept thinking, oh, it's gone. And then then I wasn't, but then the birth happened and, pulled out with forceps, which they did. She was put to sleep. She was all alone. She was terrified. And then she did tell me, it's back in the 60s, so nobody could be in the room. And then when I came out, I was in an incubator, not touched, not held because I was too little. And then postpartum depression with my mom. So I was kind of like she was in her bed curled up in a ball, and I was in my bed pretty much all day like that.
Mm.
So it was the foundation that I came on, and it was that the program that Michele had, through hypnotherapy pulled out. We found this thing that was all the decisions I was making was running through. Michele, we went off and said this is what we were going to talk about, but here we are.
No, I know, but it's good, but it's important because, and that's why I went into study hypnotherapy, because I was doing a lot of regression work and past life regression also as a, not just as a therapist, but as a psychic. And I realized I want a technique that I could pinpoint, but I could also teach others to do,
Yeah.
to kind of go back. And I think it's so important because also it did set you up to be this amazing teacher, healer, guide, coach,
If I didn't come in this way,
expert in your field,
yeah,
really.
if I did not come in this way, I wouldn't be drawn to this work.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it was all perfectly imperfect. My path. It was like when people say, what got you into this? I'm like, I was born to do this. And I really do feel this. And everything I was drawn to, and I studied birth psychology, and, I've been a doula for about 25 years now, and I integrate all this other stuff. And I just like, all the things I do is about creating a solid foundation for babies to come into the world from. And that's my umbrella, Rooted for Life. I had a company called Seed Life, like the doula stuff. It's all about how can we feel good during your pregnancy, because there's simmering inside of you. How can we birth you into the world a little bit more consciously? How can I empower you to make choices and follow your truth and not do what everybody else is doing, but what feels right for you? Ask questions, all that kind of stuff, and then set you up to thrive in postpartum in a challenging time when it can be beautiful, but also challenging.
And I think it's really important work because so many children, I hear a lot of parents sometimes say, oh, my child is so advanced. And I, coming in very advanced and maybe not so advanced parents, but my mom was more so to some degree because it's a whole other topic. And but she was also involved in metaphysics. I didn't know that until closer to the end of her life. But what I learned over the years is that children are very aware, and it's the environment, it's the parents. So when you can have more, that Rooted for Life, the foundation, when you can have more conscious parents and parenting, and for sure conscious birth in whatever context, and a lot of times conscious, being more conscious or awake or aware is just being more transparent, more truthful in the process, whether it's with yourself, your partner, um, the baby, the infant, the baby, the toddler, the child, that goes a long way. So I feel like what you're doing so fits in to the energy of the new emerging consciousness and this new paradigm that's being co-created, which some people call New Earth, but I really feel the Earth's already advanced. It's the paradigm is changing for this more empowered way of living and being, which definitely has to do a lot with children and birth.
Yeah. I mean, the other day there was things going on here in LA, and I was like, your baby was born to come into this time. It's like just like I chose to come in during the Aquarian age in the 60s, like, when the revolutions were going on and all this stuff. It's like I do feel like these babies are coming in, they pick the timing, they pick the parents, all that kind of stuff. And their souls know what they're getting into.
Yeah. Our gift is in our wound. So is our intuition. It's wrapped up in the wounding. And that's why doing emotional repatterning or clearing or understanding our conditions response pattern is so important so we can get to our truth. I even look back at my childhood. I mean, I was born psychic, highly intuitive, but actually psychic, and, seeing spirits and, working with guides and being told at 8, having a visitation that I was a star seed. But even with all that, of course, you have to practice. Any gift, if somebody comes in great playing piano or guitar or whatever, they're a prodigy, they still have to practice. So one of my practices was I did a lot of leaving my body, astral projecting. And I used to come home, after school and go in. I had a walk-in closet, and I used to lay there and just teleport myself, and I could hear sometimes my brothers would come home, or is Michele home yet? Where's Michele? And I just wouldn't answer, because I'm like, oh, now I have peace. But that ability to go into other realms, the psychic realm, I didn't realize was a lot of my early training of how to connect in to my higher self, how to astral project, how to travel in the etheric plane and connect in spiritually, or draw the messages that I need, the signs, the symbols, talk to my dog, or other animal beings or bird. I didn't, when you look back like you're doing, that set me up because it became second nature. And I think that's something so important that people need to know, is whatever you're going through it can be very tragic in our life on earth here, but your gift is in there. Your soul gift is mixed in with the tragedy, the dissonance, the distortion of life that's part of the earth plane. That's part we learn through distortion. We experience through distortion and resonance and dissonance, and what is and what isn't. And that's part of the earth plane, but our gifts are tied up into that. So a lot of times people try to reject what they've gone through, the challenges or the difficulties or the trauma, but your gifts, your strongest gifts, come from that. I don't know
Totally.
if you find that or not.
I think too, like my dad always said too, I think when we're talking about like soul path, this is something like Steve Jobs, my dad always said to me when he saw me step into the doula thing and saw what I was doing, and he was just like, oh my God, don't you see it's all connected? And I'm like, yeah, Dad, I do, because I just did but he's like, it's like the Steve Jobs quote, you can only connect the dots looking backwards, not forwards.
Yeah.
And that's something too. It's like, what you have to go and like look back to see what led you and then where you're drawn to.
Yeah. And that ties into what you were starting to say about the
Sorry, my dogs.
openings. That's good. That's good. Don't worry. That adds to it, Lori. I love that. The tea, I'd be getting up if I could when I do my podcast, because I access live stream through my phone. I can move around, but that's the openings. And that's one thing I really want to get through to people, is that they have to learn to connect into their higher self and follow the openings. What are the genuine openings? And to feel the resonance, the energy, like this is opening, because a particular opening may not be where you want to be, or where you ultimately want to be, or where you want to go. That it's a step.
There's a step, and there's probably something in that opening that'll, if you have the mindfulness and awareness to find it, or pause long enough to just, that will help bring you to where you're, or show
I agree, show you where you really want to go on a soul level through the higher self, that navigating principle of us, that higher self, what your true destiny is. Or before we hit record, we were talking about authenticity. We were talking about being authentic and I think some of it is like this shedding, not just from conditioning, but what we think we're supposed to do, or what other people are doing that seems to be more successful or whatever. But I think in that pause that you kind of mentioned, it's like pausing to just really reflect and connect in with yourself to see, what is it for me? Because when you connect into your soul, it's going to be different. Might be similar to other people, but it's also going to be different. It's going to be more personal to you, more individualized.
I think too, you and I work this way, and is that I think even in healthcare, you're a statistic, right? Most people work in therapists, you're a statistic, right? You have to look at the individual. Like when I do doula stuff, I'm looking at the person in front of me, and how can I help them with who they are, not who I think they can be or who I see them being, and all this stuff. But like where they're at today, and if they choose to do something with that, great. If they, don't, like, I'm going to help them where they're at. It's and looking at them as an individual. I think that's something that you do so well, because I mean, you read people and do, emotional processing work and all these different modalities that you have all day long. So you're just working directly with that individual.
Yeah, I love working with the soul. Now, how do you, with what you're doing, connect in more where that person's at and what they need? How do you individualize it?
I take the time to really get to know people. I ask a lot of questions. I like, develop my kind of intuition a little bit, and I'll get like senses about somebody. I just kind of like notice the way, because the way they do life is the way they're going to do birth.
Yeah, I love that. Wow.
And yeah, so it's like the more I can really understand how they operate and what their traumas are, what their emotional, where they're at emotionally, where their mind is, where their spirit is, like where all that stuff is, where they are physically, like it's going to be help me to hold space for them during the labor and birth of their child. And so I take a lot of time getting to know people, and really listen. I listen a lot of listening. And when I'm listening, I'm getting hits about ways I can help support them.
Yeah. You said something one time and I'm like, Lori, that's your tagline. That's your tagline. You got to use that. You said, I empower you, because you were talking, I empower you to make the empowered choices.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Oh, I remember I was doing a doula interview.
Yeah, and I heard it, I'm like,
you're like, that's the tagline.
Post that now. I was like, wow.
I was like, I will not make any choices for you, but I will help empower, like, educate you to make, I'll never judge you. I'll never do anything, but I will educate you, give you pros and cons, let you know that you have options to make the choices that feel the best for you, and then support you in it.
Love that.
I
think that's so important, because I think there's so many, techniques, tips and tricks. And I always say, look, the system, will get you there. It's like you're in the foyer, you're in the hallway, but you want to go in the big ballroom, the dance room. You want to go where the DJ is, the good music, whatever it is. You got to do that. That's the thing, the person. And I almost feel like when you were saying what you were saying, I'm like, because people kind of have wobbly legs, but you don't get those stronger legs unless you exercise your autonomy, your authenticity, your empowerment, your power, your true power, which is empowerment. Unless you take what you've learned from your coach or therapist or soul coach, spiritual guide, whatever, pick a card, whatever you're getting your information, your guidance, but then you have to make it your own and take a chance on yourself, And I always say too, if people, especially with intuition, if you keep striking out and you're like, oh, I'm not getting the right guidance, or I feel like I'm off track, or I keep doing this behavior or this decision, then it's like, that's where I say you need to look at yourself and what's the conditioning, what's blocking, what's tarnishing your true navigation from your higher self, which is your soul. And it may be some kind of wounding or misguided. It doesn't have to be a big deal, but for people to really get to their authenticity and their own empowerment, we do have to take a chance on ourselves and exercise our empowerment through our choices, right? Can't wait for other people to do it, or just do what somebody says, until you bring it back into you, which I love. You do that so much. You bring it back into you and see, how does that fit? Which I do too. I hear things like, sometimes you'll tell me something and I'm like, oh, and then I'll bring it in. I'm like, okay, yeah, I could do this now.
You and I also have like a unique friendship. I also feel like I know that you only want the best for me and I only want the best for you. So if you say something to me and I'm like, because you've done this a lot, and I'm like,
when your guide, your higher self, is very loud when something,
and I'm like, talk to the hand, Michele. I don't want to. And it sits inside of me because I actually trust you and I listen to you. And, I am very strong in my conviction. I'm very strong in my sense of self and what feels right and what doesn't. But I'm definitely open to, when I trust somebody, to listen to what they're going to, and we'll take stuff in and listen. But you have to just have that discernment to be like, can I sit with this? Because I think when you put the thing in somebody else's hands and allow them to make decisions for you, that is not empowering.
No. But you also, we talked about this, and I'm not going to get totally off in astrology, but I have my Leo moon and it's conjunct Uranus. You have your Aquarius, so it's both fixed. So I know that about myself. And this is what I mean for people. It's like you just have to know your true pattern. We have an essence, but we do have a blueprint. And sometimes you could look at it through astrology, numerology, psych, whatever, human design. There's a lot of ways to look at it. But I know I may be not as open on certain things. So I figure that in and go, okay, just be open. I will tell myself, just be open, bring it back in. I also know if something's really off track or not right, or if somebody is saying something that's a bit snarky or off or trying to throw me off, you know, that's kind of not the same thing. But even with some of the people, I'm thinking of one person I collaborate a lot with, and some things that they've suggested to me, and it's like I listen because I'm like, well, you know what, that's not my world, and I can see they're seeing something else that I'm not expert in, or I don't actually, it's not my wheelhouse, it's not my world. So I trust that person, and I think everyone needs to have trusted people. Who's there?
My puppy is humping my other dog. So I was just
Oh, you're trying to
break bad
you want to
habits.
get him? Do you want to get him? No,
No.
so I think you have to have trusted people
Mm-mm.
that are letting you, not trying to control you, obviously, or manipulate, but you need to have trusted people on your path that have shown over time or have that, intention to really be helpful and empower you. Everyone needs that on the soul path. And I
Mhm.
think sometimes with my work, that's really a lot of what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm bringing training and channeling and psychic, and, I'm bringing skills, training and skills, but hopefully it's also fostering trust that, and I think it's whether you're working with somebody professionally or friends or colleagues or who you're creating with or who's in your community, you need to have a few, at least one or two really that you can trust, spirit buddies, kindred souls that you can trust what they're saying or their intentions play the way that things play out. Like you said, they have your best interest at heart. I think that's
Mhm.
so important.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want a bunch of yes people with me, even though
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
so
I
easy.
like a good no every now and then. It's like, well, okay, yeah, let me look at it.
Well, Lori, I've seen you, and I'm also like have a lot of self-awareness. So I do see a lot of my, like, you're like, that you can be that way. So you have to tell yourself just to be open. I have that self-aware. I think it comes to self-awareness too, like to know, like, usually when people are calling me on stuff, if it's not something I'm not like with you, it's different because you're seeing like 17 steps ahead of me. But um, like something I'm doing I'm already pretty much aware of it,
Yeah.
kind of like being the detached observer, looking down on myself, going, God, that's so interesting you're doing this right now. Like we might have a little,
That's what I think consciousness is, right? What were you gonna say? What? Even though what?
we might have a little problem.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to do some work on this.
Yeah, we all do, but I think that's conscious living more consciously is that you don't over identify with it. You don't think that's you. That's a conditioning. That's a pattern. That's a way you're expressing life or experiencing life right now. And it's a behavior that can change. Oh, but we all have our little quirks. So we're all going to have a little something always to kind of be aware of and work on. But I think the difference, what I found for me on my path was when I got to the point when I realized, even with the quirks or my little shortcomings, I was still amazing. I'm still fucking amazing. To be honest, I'm still amazing. And I think when people can get to that where, wow, you are amazing, you have gifts. I remember years ago someone I
And
was,
you're also human, right?
yeah, well, that's right. Well, yeah, I was working with this woman years ago, and when we were working on a particular pattern and situation, actually in relationship, and she said, Michele, you're so awake, you're so conscious. She goes, but it is possible to not be so conscious in one area of your life. And I was like, yeah, that's so true because we're human. We have
Mhm.
this human experience.
Yeah. And we don't know everything.
No,
The other thing that I don't know why it popped in, but I want to share it because I think it could help somebody listening. I remember years ago, because I'm really good at bulldozing through my life. and not feeling my feelings. And I remember working with you, and I was like, you were like, just feel it and know this is just how you're feeling right now.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that and you acknowledge how you're feeling right now, it like it almost like, sorry, Michelle, hold on.
Okay.
Sorry.
Gonna disappear.
For those of you who don't know, I have 17,000 dogs. This is switching.
Are they listening to you right now?
Oh, there's a BALL in the house, which
Oh, okay.
you know what that's like. So I didn't see him get it, so I would have hid that if we got on here today. But this is just how I'm feeling right now, and to let yourself have that feeling, but know that it's just how you're feeling right now, and it almost like dissipates it, because I don't even talk about it so much with certain people, because I know that if I just do that, let myself feel it, do a little journal work, it's just how I'm feeling right now. By the time I move on very fast. And by the time I do, if I already talked about it with a million people, they're calling me going, are you okay? I know you were sad. Da, 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 da,
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? I already moved on. Like,
yeah.
so.
Because you allow it. That's why, I mean, I always do my projection and perception and 5-step emotional clearing in my head. And so many times I don't even need to talk to someone about or bring it up with because I realize it's mostly my stuff. And if it's something with if it really bothers me or I want to negotiate something, I'll bring it up. But
I
most
think
of the time, you don't have to.
Most of the time, I remember when I was dating this guy, and I did that. You helped me with that. And he was triggering so much in me. It was like the perfect thing my soul needed for growth, because he triggered the shit out of me. And like, it was like, but I didn't say anything to him, because it wasn't his, that he wasn't, it was my inner child. It was triggering abandonment stuff, or not feeling good enough, or this or that. And I would say, instead of saying to him, you're doing this and you're making me feel like this, and you're doing this and you're doing that, it had nothing to do, he was just the catapult that allowed me to do the growth and healing. And then if I ever did say something, it was like, yeah, I was triggered, and this is what I use this as an opportunity to grow. And like, you know, and if obviously there was something they were doing that was hurting me, or doing something like that, but it was more triggering a lot of stuff inside of me that had really, just by them being who they are.
Yeah. Which is so empowering, because then it's your inner strength, your inner core. You can take care of yourself emotionally, and you're not always dependent on somebody else's behavior. Because, I mean, we let ourselves down. We disappoint ourselves. That's just part of life. Other people are going to disappoint us or say something hurtful sometimes, or do something hurtful, and sometimes not even planning to, it's just people stuff. So I think it's so freeing when you can kind of handle your own emotions, but yet still be open to other people being there for you, saying what you need and want, but it's not always this requirement. You don't go, you're not staying stuck in that victim stance. And clarifier, yes, we all become victims. I know that as a individually and also as a therapist, but it's when you park there. Because I do feel, like you said earlier about feelings, we do have to go through our feelings. We have to allow our experience, and we have to process. I mean, if you're in grief, if something's happened to you, you've had loss or tragedy, that is very valid. And I think self-compassion is so important. But then do we create a whole narrative of our life? Does our life get edited around that? And then everything becomes through that lens. And that's where I think it becomes difficult or challenging, especially when people want to live more empowered or live, who is that? I see the tail. Who is that, Alfie or Rufus?
Both of them. Both the child.
Alfie, Rufus.
Yeah.
Let's see if they hear me.
Yeah, the other thing I love for you to share is bridging, because that was something a tool. You know, Mel Robbins, how she has, she had this book called the 5-minute something, or the 5-minute rule. You got to have like the bridge rule, like the book.
Yeah. Well, I actually have the 3-minute rule, 3-minute, 3-day, 3-year, or 3-month. But when you're going through something, to process, to allow if it's something small, allow yourself 3 minutes. If it's bigger, 3 hours. If it's really big, 3 days or 3 years. It's because grief, that cycle of grief or transition and change, when we go through loss, takes a few years to process it, to a good level where we're feeling, kind of back in the game of life. But yeah, bridging is big. I want to talk about also alignment because it fits in that really when we talk about manifesting or living from your soul or manifesting from your soul, everything is from alignment. In truth, we don't always make something happen or create it. We actually attract, we draw in. And that's what that law of magnetic attraction is, which can't be used. A lot of people say using it. Magnetic attraction simply means that you're attracting by your mental emotional state, your vibration, your intention, what you're focused on. We're attracting no matter what. We can attract from wounding, we can attract and create or manifest from wounding, from victimhood, from the lower self, the ego, or the higher self, right? So the key is if you're attracting things that you don't really want, it's to change how you have to do some type of emotional inner work, but you change your behavior, you change your outlook. And then the law of magnetic attraction, when it starts kicking in, when you start getting more of what you want, you're on the track, that's what you want to reinforce. And here's what happens, which just drives me nuts, is that a lot of people start attracting what they want or more of what they want, but because it isn't the big picture yet, or it's coming in a different way. And this is sometimes I'll say with clients, like, no, you're getting exactly what you want. This is part of what you want. And they're like, well, no, I really wanted it this way, or I wanted to move and then it happens. It's like, well, no, it's happening now. So that's like what you were talking about earlier, following those openings. So when we're more aligned to our higher self, which is our soul, when through our higher self, which is the higher vibrational frequency of us, when we're in that alignment, this is when things start lining up for us. But it's all about alignment. Alignment is key. So what helps us move into that alignment is this concept of bridging that I've been doing forever and helping people with, especially people that bridging is just getting from one place to the next. And I'm like, sometimes, like, let's look at it, if like you're going camping and you set up your tent, you've got all your camping gear here. And now you stay there for a while, and now you're walking over this bridge over the water. You decide what you're bringing over the bridge, over to the water, to the other side, the other campground. And what I see a lot of people wanting to do is like when they want to, first of all, whatever you're doing on a soul level, it's going to have a component to something you've already been doing before or an interest. That's just how it works here on the earth plane, and that's how the soul works. So you're always kind of gathering or aggregating what you've learned or trained in or studied, and you bring it with you. So bridging is working where you are now or what you're doing. And this is so potent and also powerful for those people that want to live more from the soul, create more of a soul fulfilled life based on more soul expression, soul experience. You want to manifest, you want to live your soul gifts. Maybe you want to be of service, or or you're an artist or creative and you want to get out of a particular job or career. I see that a lot. Start where you are. Start small steps because it's alignment. A lot of people think, oh, well, I'm too tired, or I work 40 hours a week, or I have kids, I have this, I have that. All you need is small little steps, which is like a nod to the universe, and then the universe will nod back. You don't know if unless you can afford to like completely quit your job, but most people can't. You start where you're at. And even if you do, because I've worked with some people that are like very independently wealthy, or they retired with a great, early, maybe even in their 30s with a great golden package. I suggest to them to keep something going because sometimes it's hard to manage your energy when you have too much time. So if you find the right balance of time and doing something productive. Um, so anyway, that's a whole nother topic. But so the bridging is, what can you do now? Start now where you're at little by little. And your soul will tell you through your higher self. You'll get the ideas, you'll get the things. If you work with me, I'll tell you. What happens is most people don't want to do the bridging for some reason.
Michelle, it's also don't blow up your life. Like, don't like
Yes.
This
Well,
is,
that's what I'm trying to, yeah, exactly. Don't blow up your life because
people are like, I'm just going to quit my job and start this. And it's like, well, like, don't you need to, like, it's like, I've become very strategic. I've been a master. I'm a master of bridge building because
I
of this.
know you are,
I am a
you're
bridge
bridging.
building queen. I'm building bridges. Literally, I think I build a bridge every year.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Well,
like,
once you get the hang, and that's the other thing, your higher self will always give you steps. Your higher self will not have you trash everything, really won't. And I remember years ago, a friend of mine, and I tried to tell her psychic, I'd given her a reading, and she just said, oh, I had this dream. My higher self just told me to sell everything and just move. And she had just gotten like a cherry job in production, which is hard to get. And because she had a family member that was doing, I'm not going to say the name because it's a well-known name. Um, so what happened was I said, your higher self will not tell you to do that. That's your ego. You know, she had some cockamamie, I don't know, dream vision, which was her ego masquerading as the higher self. I remember I bought her computer, all her friends, what are you going to do? I don't know. I'm just going to travel. I'm just going to go. I'm just going to travel. Well, what happened months later, she was on couch surfing on all these people's sofas, guest rooms, till she burnt her bridge. And then she ended up staying with me for a couple months. And she's like, I don't know what happened. I said, I tried to tell you, you had this idea, which we all get. Sometimes you just want to, like, I just want to be free. I just want to let go. You got to find a way to manage that energy and create your own freedom in the moment in your circumstances. Maybe it's a vacation, maybe it's a staycation, maybe it's more art, music, creativity, maybe it's being in nature more. You've got to learn how to manage your life circumstances because your soul picked the circumstances you're in. And always the transformative element that you need is always in your current circumstances, no matter how challenging, difficult, or tragic, high, up, great, whatever it is, the transformation is in that. And that's why bridging works so well, because you will see by what you're drawing in where you need to go. You know, it's like this. Okay, it's like our conversation here, our chat. Because I was going to let awakenings go. You know, I love it. I love it. I've been doing podcasting and live since what, 2007, before it was really a thing. You know, I'm always kind of an early adapter. My first website was 1999 and selling. I was selling, digital content way before most people. So early that people were worried that I was going to get, you know, taken advantage of or stolen from. With how do you know you're going to get money from your digital content, your CDs and MP3s? But anyway, so I think, and knowing that, being kind of that early adapter, it's being led by my soul, my higher self. What do I enjoy doing? So anyway, so I was like going to let go of awakenings, and I was in a session because we were off for 5 months. And then I'm in a session with the spiritual hierarchy, the oversouls, and they were so pushed, they're like telling me to go back. And they're like, well, how do you think the information comes? It has to come through you. It has to come through people. Even this live, even me going on Podbean, Blog Talk Radio, the broadcast software was down. So the guest was calling. I'm like, okay, everybody. I sent the link to people in the chat, the Awakenings chat on Instagram, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna try it. What? And everybody's, yeah, just do it, Michele. Who cares? The sound is good. Just go live. Then today with this, you're like, oh, let's have our conversation. We've been trying to plan this for so long. So I think again, people, that's the opening. It's not the opening I thought of. I wanted to do live, YouTube live, and either Podbean or through Zoom, but I had to sign up for it. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. People, you have to kind of look and go, okay, this opening is here. Maybe it's not the perfect opening or the opening I thought it was going to be. Because what is in the opening is resonance. It's resonance and coherence. The openings are created by your soul through your soul signature frequency, your soul wave, your soul, blueprint. It's like a map. It's like the map coming through you, 3D, 4D, 5D, it's coming into the earth plane. and kind of like a 3D map. It's showing you through a sign, a symbol, an opening, an opportunity, sometimes an idea. You get an idea, a flash, and then you're like, oh, I don't know if I should do it. I don't have enough time, or I don't have enough this, or should I start this? And it's like, there's the opening. Follow through the opening, which you're like master at. Whether it's a small opening or a big opening, Lori goes through. You go through. You're like, okay, I'm just going to try this. Or they asked me to show up. I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I first got my first book deal, I was like writing my book, and I'd hear that little voice inside of me that was like, who are you to write this book? You can't spell. You don't even know how to use a computer. Like, I'm
I
like,
remember.
yeah, I was like, and I was like, I hear you and you can get this all out, but I'm not gonna let you stop me. And I choose to move forward. And it was like one of those things. But um the bridging, I feel like is such a good thing. So I watch people just be like, I don't want to do this anymore. And they blow up their life, and they haven't, they just blow up everything that they've have, and then they'll go off and just start something, and it usually crumbles because there's no foundation to it.
Exactly. You have to, the bridge is the foundation. And also, if when you're bridging, so we all have like little squares, or lily pads, if you want to call it, little islands. We have little, it's called sphere of experience. And from our sphere of experience, we have a sphere of influence. What happens when you start bridging, you follow those openings, you outgrow naturally, organically what you were doing and where you're at. And that's the bridge. It naturally moves you, pushes you sometimes into the new. Because if you don't bridge, then you're doing it, it's artificial.
Also, you
So
can bring it into what you're doing. Like when I was doing body work and yoga and massage and healing and all that kind of stuff. And then I was specializing with prenatal. I was bringing in my Rooted for Life program, which was now my Mindful Mom to Be book, and my transformational into journey into motherhood program that that I do with people. I was bringing it in on the table and using it and like giving them holistic remedies for ailments. I was doing birth prep with them. I was doing, talking about like what's coming up for you. And like, it's like, because my hands were on them. So they were just like, and I was opening up their body. So they would just like, blah, 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 blah. And then we would do this stuff. And it was like an instant clientele for me. Because then I'm like, well, I'm a doula and I can go in the room with you and support you throughout your journey and do body work and all. And then I got so busy with the doula stuff, I was able to let the body work go.
And I
Because
think that's the key. And I want to roll back to something because I just had a flat when you mentioned the book. That even, because I work with a lot of people and they're like, oh, they want to write a book. But it's like, okay, that's just first do the thing, the service. Have your service, your toolkit, whatever you're creating, your product, whatever what you're sharing, whatever, your art, and then things stem from that. But I remember with you, the blogging.
yeah.
When it kept coming through in your readings that you were a writer and you're like, well, how can I write a book? And then it was a just start anywhere. And I remember you started writing the book. Your first book was taken from your blog. That's what I mean by organic.
Mhm.
It was so easy. Someone saw what you were writing and said, this is great. Can we make it into a book? You fleshed it out a bit, but that's what I'm saying. So I feel people, they want to start at Z, and there's all this other stuff. There's no foundation. There's no, not only
You have to have
service,
a thing. You can't
huh?
just, you have to have a thing. You
You
can't
have to
just
have a thing. Exactly.
have
What's
to
your
have some kind
thing?
of
What are
a
you
program
doing?
or like a like course or a class or a something, a way of doing something that's in a system that you can, that's already, you're at doing it, you're trying it with people, you're experimenting, you're out there learning what people need, what they don't, because then you become an expert and then you can really go write that book. But also,
Exactly.
yeah,
Unless you're doing a novel or graphic novel, okay, those kinds of things. But a lot of people that I work with, I know that you're around, but a lot of people that come to me, I want to help people. I want to be an expert in this field, or, I want to work one-on-one, or this is my idea. And it's like, yeah, but like you said, you got to have a thing. What is your unique thing? What's your niche? How are you doing it similar to others, but yet different from your soul, your individual soul. What is, and that takes time to figure out. And you have to allow yourself to grow and morph and change the way also you do things, because you're not going to always want to do things the same way all the time. You're not always going to want to, your modalities, the way you express an experience or the way you help people or the way you do your soul's gifts, no matter what it is, if art, music, whatever it is, design, accounting, whatever your soul's gifts are, however you're incorporating it in the world, it's going to change over time
And
to
I
some
think
degree.
it takes longer to bridge and it takes a lot more work. I mean, I was doing bodywork massage, I was doing births, I was writing a book, I was like teaching yoga, I was doing all these things, but I was bringing the doula, the coaching, the holistic stuff into wherever I could to help, and then eventually it's so effortless. It takes
Well, it's
long.
organic.
It's so organic, and then it just falls. It's just like, I don't need to, I like don't have time to do the body work anymore. I don't have time to do the yoga anymore. I don't have time because I'm too busy now. I built this big practice.
Yeah.
So now
Yet you have all that you learned from that. You still have those skill sets and all that you learned,
oh yeah, I bring it all into like in the birth room. I don't tell people I do body work because then they'll be like every birth prep session, they'll be like, can you massage my shoulders? So I like don't let them know until I'm in the room. And then they're like, oh, I didn't know. And I'm like, I did that on purpose. That way you can ask me to massage you throughout your pregnancy. But yes, you still bring on, I mean, everything I've ever learned, even if I thought I went off path, I was grabbing a modality or learning something that I actually bring into what I'm doing now.
Yeah, that idea, the off path, reminds me sometimes where we might feel we're stuck. And I have found in my own soul journey, soul path, my own spiritual journey of healing and, self-development, that a lot of times we're not stuck. There's a lot of times we're marinating, we're cooking. There's something going on subconsciously or in the dream state, or we need one more little piece, something we need to heal or integrate or put together. And I kind of call that the waiting area. We're in the void. You're in the womb. You're in the cosmic womb. And it is like a layover. And I had a client like a couple of weeks ago, and they were like really upset and waiting. They felt like they were waiting, and I go, "Well, stop waiting." And they're like, "Well, what do you mean stop waiting? Nothing's happening." I go, "No, a lot's happening." I go, "But because they fly a lot." And I said, "What do you do in the airport?" "What do you mean in the airport?" "Well, what do you do in the airport in between flights?" And they're like, "Oh my God, I love doing that. I answer all these emails. I call friends or family members I haven't talked to in a while. Sometimes I read a book and I go, that's what you need to do. You need to look at change the perception of waiting, reframe that you're not waiting for anything to happen or manifest, because it is manifesting. It's maybe not yet on the 3D level, the physical level. It's in the etheric. It's all coming together, the pieces. And I'm like, just visualize yourself. You're in the airport. What are you going to do? Go get a cappuccino, go get a tea, a coffee, get something to eat, go read a magazine, go for a walk. You just need to say you're in this layover. You're not stuck. Sometimes people are stuck. I do see that as a hypnotherapist and help people as a therapist with that, transpersonal therapist. But honestly, very rarely. It's just usually other stuff is going on, and they perceive that they're not moving forward or getting what they want, and that is stuck. But if you understand how to work with the energy, then you can move forward. Then you can see that you have gains. And I mean, I've had to do that in my own life, certain things that I've wanted. And then when I look again, like what you the dots, then when I look back, I go, oh, that's why I had to do this, I had to do that, or I had to learn this, or I was working on this health issue, or I was working on, this piece, or this piece hadn't come in yet. And that's the other thing I think people need to know and really remember. It's not all about us. We have other people via timing that we're meant to connect with for certain things. Now, if they don't get with the program and they're lagging and they don't, then there's always somebody there can be someone else. But sometimes what we want is dependent on timing, universal timing, timing of what is resonating on the earth plane, what's happening, in the mainstream world, because we can't manifest beyond a certain frequency level and vibration too high up. If the mainstream, that's what all this awakening is happening. That's awakening in all these different sectors, whether religious, spiritual, educational, environmental, medical, um, education, working with children, financial. As there's more awakening, there's more awareness and more consciousness, then there's more that we can do and manifest much more quickly. And so that's happening, or manifest more in alignment with the soul, because we're moving out of ego manifestations and more into the soul. That's why there's so much disparity. There's so much coming up right now to really look at and cleanse and clear and integrate. That's part of it. We're actually in the root awakening. But things have to come up into our awareness to then be able to know what to do. We can't change what we're not aware of. So yeah, that quote unquote waiting period, the layover is so important because so much is happening, in that
It's also
period.
really uncomfortable. I
Yeah.
think that's the thing. People don't want to be uncomfortable. It's like you're that place of I'm here, but I'm not here. But the thing hasn't come in yet, and so people they try to make things happen before it's ready. And I just went through that with the move, where
Which you mastered.
I
So
mastered it. I'm doing it again now with my career, but it's interesting, like bridging and I'm layovering and I'm building the bridge and layovering and all that kind of stuff and doing with what's in front of me. Something. I lived in a house that flooded and the whole bottom floor flooded. And I was living in the middle, like on the middle floor. I had it all tarped up, so mold wasn't getting upstairs, or at least I hope it didn't. But I thought I kept waiting because I thought I was gonna move into an old client of mine's house. And I kept waiting, and she kept saying, okay, we're looking at places, and then it didn't happen. And then I was waiting, and then it didn't happen. And I really liked the area she was in, and I really liked the house she was in. And it kind of gave me a blueprint of,
what
where
you
I
wanted.
wanted to be and what I wanted. And I kept waiting. I mean, and I'm talking, I waited. I want to say I wasn't waiting because I want to say I was waiting for her at first.
At first, yeah.
Well, but as I was waiting, Michele said, what can you do you're in the layover? It's like you're in the layover. Like, what do you're moving. So what can you do with what's in front of you right now? And I'm like, well, I have a lot of clients. I can start saving money. There's some, I need to.
Yeah, because there's always in the layover, there's stuff you need. It's almost like a Saturn energy. What can I clear up, clean up, integrate? What do I need to do?
Yeah,
What
I
do I
packed up some stuff. I threw away a lot.
want?
I worked on, my health. I definitely I cleaned up my credit. I did all these things. And then there was a point where she had said, I don't know if we're going to move and now it was like 5 months. And at this point, I saw something on Zillow that was in the same neighborhood. And I just was like, I told Michele, I was like, I'm going to go look at it. And I looked at it and Michelle's like, I have a good feeling about this. And I'm like, I'm so glad you did, because I put an application in, and I put an application in and they accepted me right away. And this house is better than the other one would have been. It has a bigger yard for my dogs. It's
Dual fireplace.
Dual fireplace, big. I wanted 3 things:
Big kitchen,
a fireplace, and a yard for my dogs, and then to be in this certain area. And I got it for less money. So it's kind
walk
of
to the store, walk to the farmer's market.
yeah, it's so great. And so when you can be like, okay, instead of, trust me, if I would have gone out and been like, screw it, I'm not waiting anymore, and which I wanted to do, trust me, because it's uncomfortable. I would have probably taken a crappy house. I would have not been able to furnish it because I would have spent all the money on the deposit, because I didn't have all the money saved that I needed to be saved. In fact, I had all the money and then some to buy all new furniture and completely furnish this
We
house.
do, yeah.
And pay all my bills and not stress, because it was, you know, because I used that layover with what I could do with this in front of me. So I think it's also that in between, that void is, it can be very uncomfortable, and people, I was uncomfortable sleeping in the living room, you know, but my friends kept coming up to visit me and
I know, everybody. But here's the thing, the layover, it's metaphysical. So what happens is when you are bridging and also you're in that layover, you don't identify with the circumstances of the house or not having the house or whatever it is, the car, whatever you're manifesting or drawing in or creating etherically. You focus on the energy, because when you focus on the energy of what you want, that's when you attract it. Because the last thing to manifest is the denser physical, like this cup. This was a vision in somebody's mind. That's the metaphysics beyond the physical. And manifest simply means, in French, manifest is to just simply make visible. So that's why I was saying, and that's where, people listening, why it works so brilliantly for you, Lori, and you've done it before, but this time was masterful, is because you just use the energy that's there, like what's needed, because your higher self is always guiding you. I mean, the ego part of us may not know what we need to do or what to do, or might feel there's loss, or it has to wait. The higher self is orchestrating everything energetically with other people, with the best opportunity person. That's why it brings what's more in alignment. So that's why it's hopeful to not always look at the goal or the product, or focus on the idea of what you want, the quality of the people you want to be around, the quality of what you want to manifest, whether it's a house, a relationship, what kind of people do you want, if it's a job or career, what's the energy quality. And that's why you got even better. The quality of energy is it's so supportive of your whole lifestyle. And that's really conscious creation. I mean, that's what we're kind of getting into. That's the whole bridging, because you're working with your energetic patterning, your blueprint, the energetic patterning of your soul, mostly, very little of the ego. You're looking at my soul. What do I really need and want? And when you do that, then you can see that within your present circumstances is the energy of what you want. You're just taking it and up leveling it or expanding it or making it more soul fulfilling. That's why I think it's so powerful, is that because you're working with the energy. It's kind of like martial arts. They teach you, like, you work with the person's energy. I remember once, because I studied martial arts for a period of time, and the teacher had said that in certain martial arts, that the I when you if you never have to hit someone or take a punch, that's you're very successful. You're a high level martial arts person, because you see that energy ahead. You cross the street because you feel something weird, shady, or not very. You feel it. You cross the street. Someone goes to punch you. You duck. You move. Or you use their energy. And that's what metaphysics is, really. It's understanding the energy, your individual energy flow, the universal energy flow, aligning your individual flow, and having it work for you instead of against. And that's what bridging is, or this layover. It gets you in alignment, because you're going, okay, I may not like this. I feel cramped, whatever it is, but this is the energy. Because that energy, when you align to it, it's like a portal. It connects you into universal energy. But if you resist it, then it bumps down your vibrational frequency into ego and into wounding and resistance. And then you're in the streams of polarity, and you just lose your juice. You get exhausted. But when you work with the energy flow in that bridging and that layover, and you work with existing energy, aligning to it and go, okay, what can I do here? Another thing is, like, what are the blessings where I'm at? How is my present circumstance supporting me? And then when you acknowledge that and you use that consciously, then you organically, you move out of it easily. It's just, yeah.
I love it.
I think let me see. Did we cover? I
I
love
feel
our
like
chat.
I covered like a lot.
I know.
My
Okay, well,
dogs
we'll connect again.
my
Oh,
dogs have been nuts
I
today.
know.
You must hear your voice and they're like getting all like,
Guys, coming to see you. Oh, okay. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah, when you align the universe, that's why you want to get into the energy of the situation. It aligns you to the abundance of the universe. Yeah, I love this, Lori.
me
I'll do
too.
it again because I love our conversation. So, hey,
Now, I love it.
Ante, chin chin.
Cheers.
Cheers. Sante, Sante. All right. Well, to be continued and yeah, in this unfolding. Thanks for spending time. Tea and chat, awakening conversation. Love it. Hey, how can people get in touch with you? They have questions, they want to connect with you for any reason.
My website's Lori, Lori my website's LoriBregman.com, LoriBregman.com. My Instagram is lbreggy on Instagram. I don't do the TikTok. I have one, but I can't do it.
Yeah. You got a lot of good stuff on IG.
I do a lot of stuff on
It's
Instagram.
good. Yeah. And
Yeah.
a good resource
Mhm.
for anybody that's wants a good doula. But you got a lot of good info on your website as well.
Classes and ways to work virtually and all these different ways to support. Yeah, thanks for Michele.
Thank you. Thank you for pushing it, prompting it. I love this. I love this conversation.
Love you.
Love you too. Till next time.